to, and you can like, I tried to move the podium so you can see the alternates, which is really just Lindsay in the room.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
And you can kind of see Sam. And Alex Cross.
Hi,
And one of you can sit in
everybody.
the middle if you want
Yeah.
to. If you want to sit right in front of the gavel. Yeah. We'll have like an honorary chair here, Jesse, since you're not here. We'll let, oh.
Oh, you go ahead and sit in it.
Yeah, so just make sure they're not on together because that's where you get that. Is like it hits.
Wasn't on. Is that okay? Is that
No,
okay?
yeah.
I think that's
I
okay.
think you're good.
Someone's not.
Yeah,
Sorry,
Kat and I
did not
caught the
be there.
lurgies.
Everybody. I'm sick too, so. Oh no.
Yeah, it's going around
Yeah.
again.
What is it?
Jesse, and sorry,
I
thanks
just have a cold. Okay.
for putting together the meeting minutes and the agenda as always.
Oh, thanks, Sam. Hope you're all doing well and staying healthy otherwise.
So far, I can say I am, and the Ovet family is for sure, which is good.
I don't want to jinx it.
Yeah,
I'm
there's
working
something going
Friday.
around in my wife's office that she was like, "I'm not going in."
Yeah, my husband had a bug last week, and I avoided it.
Oh. Do avoid it. It sucks. Okay, so I guess we've got 4 of us technically here. We can go ahead and get started. Miranda, did you hear from anyone else? I did hear from CT. I know CT will not be available.
Let me check Macy's quorum
Oh.
list here. She had Brian also absent.
Okay.
I think you have everyone for tonight.
So this is Brian's 3rd meeting in a row that he's not made it. I wonder if we should check in that if he's going to be a participant in the future.
So he did attend our walkthrough, the Trails Master Plan walkthrough.
Okay.
I just think maybe the nighttime meetings might be challenging. I'm happy to touch base unless somebody else wants to.
He had sent me an email about a town, Firestone, Colorado, recently that like he just sent an email. I think he was traveling or something, and mentioned something like he was traveling. He's like seems pretty engaged.
Yeah,
So-
he does. Did he miss? He missed last.
Yeah, he was.
And
But
the
he
one
missed
before that.
Before that, he did.
So
Oh,
this is 3 in a row, and I think you might want to check the bylaws and just make sure he's
Yeah. Good
still
idea.
within.
I will say he seems like engaged in everything outside of meetings and like everything related to Trails Master Plan and all that stuff. He's definitely seems pretty on it.
yeah. I think there's some personal things that probably I don't want to read into the record. So, but I can let you know offline, Jesse.
No, you're fine. Yeah, so long as he's still into it.
Yeah, he was out of the country, and then I know he's out of town right now. Like I think away from technology. So I think it's yeah. But yeah, he was
That's
at the
good, as long as he's
walkthrough.
okay.
So, and not a bad idea to check in. But yeah, no, he's So
Okay. And we have our new liaison, Jessie. So Jessie is with us tonight. So I'll go ahead and do roll call. We have call to order at 7:05. It looks like we have Alex
Present.
and Sam.
Present.
We have Kat,
hello.
myself, Jess, and Trustee Sievers.
Present.
Hey, good to see you all. Minutes. I sent out the minutes with the agenda, so hopefully I had time to review those. I didn't receive any edits, but let me know. And otherwise, someone can go ahead and make a motion to approve those.
Motion to approve the minutes from last meeting.
Thanks, Alex. Sam, are you going to be taking minutes for this one, or would you like me to? I don't mind either way.
I can take minutes for this one.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for taking it over for a little bit.
Yeah, hopefully your life is settling back into a normal pattern.
Totally is.
Getting
Yeah.
some sleep.
We're sleeping through the night for sure.
Amazing.
Right.
Hey, Jesse.
Yeah.
Hey, Jesse. So I did actually, I had one, sorry, I
Yeah.
should have said this
No, you're good.
before, but I did have one sort of question or edit to the minutes. It does, and I noticed this in the agenda as well. It does say that the board is interested in moving ahead with rezoning of the open space area and a bunch of stuff around that. But we only ever had a discussion about the possibility of that idea, and I don't believe we ever.
You could add
had the
in like the
board-
word the possibility. Interested in the possibility.
I think like for me that last meeting was complete, like it was here's an idea that like people have questions about. It definitely wasn't here's something the board wants to push forward.
Yeah.
And we never voted on it. So
No.
I do think it's important to change that in the minutes. And then I think if and when, I don't think we can do that if CT's not here since it's kind of his project, but if and when we do have a discussion about whether to go forward on that, I think we do need to like, have some sort of formal vote, like, what exactly are we going forward with, and are people in support of this and that sort of thing.
Yes.
So
how about just saying it interested in continuing discussions about designating the zoning for parks and open space areas?
yeah, I mean, I think you could just say like, I think it would be good in minutes to be specific about like who brings up different ideas. So you could say that an individual on PROSAB brought this up and the board discussed it and will discuss it again in the future.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair enough.
You on that? I like the idea.
I've just gone ahead and edited that in now, but I will resend that out for you.
Cool. Thank you. And I'm so sorry I didn't flag that ahead of time.
No, that's a good point. And Sam, so sometimes, I mean, I know they don't actually, like the minutes don't actually have to be so specific. I tend to, just for my own, it helps me keep track of our discussions.
Oh yeah, no, you did a great job with them. So I've got a nice sort of template to live up to.
And how I've typically done it now that now that we're recording is just to go back in and pull it from the recorded minutes.
Oh, smart. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
I like that.
Helps rather than trying to do it all at the time.
Yeah, smart. I'll just take notes on here and then go back through and grab them or ask ChatGPT to,
Yeah.
That was a good one.
Thank you, Kat. That was really good.
Definitely.
So, should we move on into discussion items and some of the alternates? Okay. So we have, first on the agenda is we have alternate appointments. So hopefully tonight we have a few of you guys who are interested here. We have 4 applicants, and I apologize if I pronounce your names wrong. So please correct me too. Casey Cornelio, Lindsay Ute, Jason Swan, and Chuy Vallejo, who was a little late in coming with the application, but we'll go ahead and see if anyone would like to speak as to their interest in joining the PROSAB. Thank you, Miranda, for forwarding those applications too.
Yes, and I just want to, I guess, be clear. So we've got Casey online and Lindsay here in the room, and it does not appear that the other 2 applicants are with us at this moment.
Okay.
And Miranda, could you remind us, we are recommending a single person and then the bot accepts or declines that recommendation?
Yep, so you'll recommend a person for appointment. We'll still allow all 4 applicants to go before the Board of Trustees. The board will then either confirm your recommendation through an appointment, or they may choose to appoint someone else to the position.
Okay. But we're not like ranking, we're just choosing a person.
Correct. It is recommended that you identify who you want to put a recommendation behind before the Board of Trustees.
Great. Thank you.
So I have Casey listed first here, or Kathleen. I don't know what you prefer to go by. Shall we start with you? Is that okay?
Hi everyone, that sounds great. I'm sorry, I'm trying to get my camera to work. Here we go. Maybe not. Oh wait. Yeah, I apologize. But hi. Oh wait, I think, can you see me now?
Yeah, Casey, we can
Okay,
see
great.
you.
I apologize if you guys hear any feedback. I'm actually down in Denver for a friend's birthday dinner. But I just wanted to introduce myself to everyone. My husband and I recently moved up to the Magnolia Road neighborhood in September. So I'm a little new to the mountains, but previously lived in Louisville and Boulder, went to CU as an undergrad, and stayed in Colorado to go to law school, and I work at a law firm in Boulder. And I just have a passion for the outdoors, and I think, I can bring that to PROSAB and, hopefully work with you all in the future and learn a little bit more about the sort of decisions that you get to make and, learn a bit more about the open space that Nederland has to offer. But I'd love to be considered for the position, and I thank everyone for their time tonight.
Do you go by Casey or Kathleen?
I go by Casey, my initials, yeah.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Folks have questions for Casey?
I don't have any particular questions. Just thank you for like coming on and joining and, having an interest in the community.
I guess I'll ask if you were to join as an alternate or join us, is there something a topic or two you'd be particularly interested in pursuing or working on? If anything comes to mind.
Yeah, I think someone earlier in the meeting mentioned something about zoning some open space, and so I'm super interested in, bringing my legal background to PROSAB. I believe there might be another attorney in the group. I'm not sure, but whoever that is, nice to meet you. But I think I do a lot of advising of special districts in Colorado, and so I'm very familiar with advising boards and local governments, and so I think just having a firm understanding of that process and the zoning is just super interesting to me.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Casey. I guess, Lindsay, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself too. Thank you.
Welcome.
Push button?
Yep.
Okay. You have to be really close though. Okay, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, I'm Lindsay Ute. I moved here about a year ago, and upon moving here, I noticed how tight-knit of a community Nederland was, and I love that about living here, and I want to be not only just a part of the community, but serve in a higher capacity, and I think being on this board does just that. And I'm really passionate about being outdoors and parks and making sure that people have a safe space to be outside. And I think this is a great opportunity to put my foot in the door for local government to serve, and I plan on being here forever. So I really think that, or I really just want. I would be honored to be on the board. Thank you. Any questions?
Awesome. Hey,
Guess maybe
Lindsay.
Hey.
Here, I'll ask a similar question to what Alex asked. So
Yeah.
if you were to join PROSAB, kind of what are some areas that you would be interested in getting involved in particularly or working on?
Yeah, I'm definitely interested in like creating trails, maintaining trails, opportunities for open space, and like I love the what we did down at the reservoir, and so little things like that. are interested in interest of me. Of interest of
Okay.
Great, thank you.
So, thanks for jumping up and telling us and introducing yourself.
And thanks for being in person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool night.
Yeah,
I
coming
know,
out on a
sorry,
cold
sorry
night.
it was such an empty evening. Definitely something going around.
Yeah. Do we want to discuss the other two applicants?
I was curious, did anybody know Chewy's didn't have a resume? Was there not one submitted, or was that accidental?
No, and that's not required, only the application itself. And then I attached the email that we received.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing something.
Yeah, do any of you have specific thoughts or comments about any of the applicants or strengths? I mean, you all look amazing and better than me, so good job.
Yeah, I think my only thought when I saw the applications was we are so lucky to have such an amazing
Qualified
and
yeah.
qualified and also all in very different ways group of people to have applied for this round. So thank you to everyone.
Yeah.
I wish we could add 4 people. So
How many openings do we have, just for clarification?
You only have the one.
The one.
just
Oh,
one.
But in theory, in the summer, there might be more depending on what folks do, right, Miranda?
Right. So currently you only have the alternate available. And just for clarification for Casey and Lindsay, how the alternate works is if we don't have all 7 members present or it's a lack of quorum situation, then the alternate can vote. They can participate in every conversation. It just will really come down to how many people we have here for the actual vote itself.
okay. Thanks for clarifying.
I was curious, did either Jason or Chewy did they know, like, did they kind of reach out about not being able to miss the meeting? Or I'm just curious, like, was it just like not a good time, or was it just that they didn't
Great question. So I did speak in length with Jason, and his intention was to come in person. I did not hear from Chewy, who did receive the information for the meeting for both virtual or in-person attendance. But I am surprised that we don't see Jason here.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'm a little disappointed that Jason is not there, because I was pretty impressed with his objectives, particularly just around conservation. Would bring a different kind of perspective to the board. So I do lean towards people who have come to the meeting. I definitely have that as a preference. It shows that you're committed.
Yeah, I tend to have the same orientation also. I mean, unless there was like a real, like, conflict or emergency or what have you.
Yeah.
So
Adding an extra position to the board would probably be a pretty bad idea, huh? Because we have some really great candidates here.
That is an option. PROSAB could consider going to a board of 9. You would not be able to choose to do that tonight. You'd have to amend your bylaws in March before you could do any additional appointments, but that is an option.
Well, maybe.
yeah, we did talk about that last time. Like,
Yeah.
I think it's, it's not a bad thing to discuss, I suppose. I think Jesse maybe brought up some good sort of thoughts around. I think it was Jesse last time. So, but yeah, I don't think we can really discuss that tonight, but we could definitely. And it's not a bad idea to put that on the agenda for the next month or 2.
Yeah. I guess while we're discussing this, I have been giving some thought to my role on PROSAB too, and this meeting actually marks my official 4-year anniversary on PROSAB. So my life has changed significantly since then, and I would also like to submit my resignation. as chair. So I think
Thank
you're
you
all.
for everything you've
Yeah.
done. Number one, it's been like, incredible. So
Jesse, are you resigning as chair or altogether from PROSAB?
All together.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
when,
No.
That's extra sad.
So
when
I mean, because this wasn't on the agenda, you would want to push that to the next meeting, but there's another vacancy for the next meeting. You'll obviously still have to pick one for this meeting.
Does she
I think you're all
dedicated
incredibly.
to you.
Yeah,
You know,
adopt a bench
statue.
program.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say, I would say that with Jesse's resignation, which is super sad, is still opening it up for the 21-day. Anyone who has applied who maybe is not recommended for appointment tonight could decide to automatically put their name in the hat to be
Yeah.
considered for
Correct.
that next position. And an alternate could also be could request to be considered for a permanent position versus the alternate.
which
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
And so we've got 2 alternates tonight here.
You do 2 alternates tonight here, so one could be recommended for appointment for the alternate, and the other could just seek to submit their application for this new vacancy.
Okay, and then another question with that is there, just procedurally, is it like, do we open it up for more applicants at this point? Is that how it works?
Yep.
What's the,
Every time there's a vacancy, we always do a 21-day application period.
okay,
So that will open, the count starts as soon as Peter releases the application, which will happen, may not happen
Okay.
tomorrow, could happen next week. But then in March, you would do another round of interviews for that. And you may then want to also consider your chair appointment at that time.
that makes sense.
Jesse, are you intending like this to be?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, that's my.
Yeah, sounds-
We all have the same.
Go
Yeah, like
ahead.
what's
Not to put pressure.
what's the timing here?
you're welcome at any meeting, but like officially,
I mean, I was probably hoping on just handing it over to you after this meeting.
that makes sense.
No, you're all incredibly talented and capable, and you're an incredible bod. So I have no doubt you'll rock it.
And you'll have to guide us a little bit, Miranda, on the kind of procedures aspect from there, and then we'll throw a like going away party, for 4 years for Jesse, for sure.
Seriously.
All right, Jesse, are you taking public comment?
It looks like
item?
Casey raised.
Yeah, we could take
Wait,
public
sorry, I was just
comment.
gonna say it looks like Casey has her hand raised in WebEx. I don't know if that's
Oh.
intentional. Casey, were you trying to say something?
Sorry, no, I'm not. I apologize. Other than
Oh,
best of luck to Jeff.
Jesse, you do have a member in the audience who would like
Well-
to make public comment.
Oh, yes, please do.
Sir,
public
please
comment.
come to the podium.
Eric Coombs Ismail, current trustee, former liaison to PROSAB.
Aw.
Really psyched to have served 3 years with you guys. It's been great. I'm sure that Trustee Severs will be an able replacement for me. And just want to say that Jesse Ansari's contribution cannot be overstated to the parks in our community. And I think that one of the reasons why Jesse has been both so effective and also so beloved is because I think that underpinning everything that she's done has been the firm conviction that our parks are what we hold in common as a community. They are different than other infrastructure in that that parks are really what we choose to use rather than what we have to use, like roads and water and things like that, right? Parks really reflect our values as a social system that we live in. They are also aesthetically important to our community, I think in a way that is often overlooked. So I just wanted to remind you all of that, and I'm so excited of the folks who have stepped up to fill all these positions. It's really exciting that parks are not just an opportunity for recreation, nor are they just an opportunity for conservation. Like they really are the social and aesthetic reflection of our values as a community. They are crucial and critical infrastructure. They're how we get around, right? And they're how we choose to engage with the world. So please remember all of that as you guys move forward. Thanks.
Thank you.
Wow. Was that on the fly? That was beautiful.
Yeah, but that wrapped it up.
Uh,
It's the community that matters. So really, my advice would be always follow the NPP. Strive to involve as many stakeholders as you can for any given project. Yeah, definitely try and just involve the community and pursue equity and a balance between recreation and protection of our beautiful environment up here would be my words.
well, Jesse, I just want to say that you have been an amazing chair, and thank you for all that you've done for the Parks and Trails and Ned. So we will deeply miss you. But we will also figure it out. So you should go off and
I'll be
free
around.
Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
you have not seen the last of me.
That's good.
So I guess, how does this usually work in terms of figuring out the recommendation?
So preference is that someone makes a
Yeah.
motion and you vote on it. Some boards do like a secret silent vote. It's not preferred, but if you're comfortable, what that would be is you would text me the name of who you're interested in and I will share. Still core requestable, doesn't really change the dynamic. We prefer for it just to be open and transparent, but your choice.
And I'll ask the question, should we
Yeah.
approach it in terms of like who has an interest, so we're not putting someone in that role that is saying like, you know, just like a busy time in my life, something like that?
Yes. My assumption is both Casey and Lindsay. I mean,
Yeah.
another option, and I hate to do this, is you could choose to wait to do your appointment and do your regular vacancy plus your alternate at your March meeting. I do want to be mindful though that
Yeah.
Casey and Lindsay did give up time.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally respectful. of
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think like we're all hesitating because both Casey
They're
and Lindsay
both-
seem amazing, and I don't think any of us
They're
really
both
want to.
excellent.
I've got
Yeah, so I think we should probably, I think we just
Flip a
kind of
coin.
need to make a decision because I don't think it's fair to like put it off, but knowing that we'll have another vacancy next time around, you know, so.
I'll just say two things, which is the bot could go a totally different direction. So this is like not, like I couldn't attend this meeting when I was applying and
Oh, yeah.
yeah, and then the bot, I could attend the bot meeting and then I was chosen. So we can put a lot of like
Yeah.
weight on our decision, but it's ultimately not up to us. And then two, Lindsay's like a personal friend of mine. So I feel like I'm not going to make a motion because I feel very biased. So I want to make that transparent, or I could recuse myself. I don't know, but yeah.
Can I ask a question just that may make this like slightly easier for us? I think obviously we'd love to have you both. That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
And I think that sounds like the sentiment for everybody. However, relative to the fact that there is a position opening and you're both here and, you know, you made the effort, you're here, and like sometimes you can't be here, but usually if you can't be here and you're interested, maybe you would have sent a little note over like, hey, here's why.
Yes, I did that. Yeah.
And you did that, exactly.
Yeah.
And not to knock those other people, things come up, stuff happens. And but is there either of you who would rather be interested in like staying more on the alternate aspect of things since there is an opening coming up and you're both obviously candidates for that most likely? Between the two of you, is there one of you who is like, oh, and you don't have to, I'm just asking, is there one of you prefer to be like, you know, I'd really prefer to kind of be in an alternate role, a little less involved, but able to be involved at the moment, just like given life and things like that? Or, you know, are we both like, we'd both love to be board members, you know, full on? And if anybody feels that way, then it could make it slightly easier to say like, oh, why don't we consider you the alternate and then have the other person like brought in more as a board member sort of thought process when we open that up, since we have to go through the process of the 21-day period. But, you know, you're here, you're interested, you're excited. Like, I think that goes a long way. Thoughts on that?
Lindsay, if you want to go ahead, I can't see you, but I defer to you.
And both roles are amazing, you know, like being involved is incredible. And it does feel like vacancies actually like open up surprisingly more often than
Yeah.
I would think at first.
Yeah.
I would be interested on being on the board full time.
Okay, cool. That's great. And we want to know what you're interested in, you know?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Now that that's an opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I,
Breaking news.
I would.
Yeah, breaking news.
Yeah. I'm excited.
Yeah.
And as for our other
And as for me, yeah, I'm flexible. I'm, as you know, a little bit, somewhat more of a newcomer than Lindsay. You know, I would have no problem filling in the alternate role and, you know, learning from you all. So, yeah, I'm flexible, and you know, whatever makes the most sense. I don't have a preference, and I just want to do what's best for PROSAB.
Cool. I mean, you know, I guess the risk, Lindsay, you take is like when we open it up, we've got other candidates at that point. And I mean,
Well,
the fact that you're here, you know,
and also like
go ahead. Sorry.
also as an alternate, if like the person is appointed as an alternate this time, and next month they could ask to be the full time, and we appoint someone else the alternate. You know what I mean?
Totally. Absolutely the case.
I think
So-
we'd be trying
so-
to probably not do that. I think
Yeah.
what Sam's trying to do is slot someone into the alternate who's okay in the alternate for at least a few months, you
Yeah,
know,
exactly.
until a potential next vacancy. And it sounds like maybe Lindsay would be less interested in that than Casey from
Yeah.
everything I've heard.
All right. So we got some decisions to make.
Yeah.
I guess, how does it work again in terms of the motioning aspect of it?
You would just make a motion to recommend to the Board of Trustees appointment of blank, whoever blank is.
Cool. So I'll ask Lindsay. Lindsay, are you okay if we go the route of not appointing you the alternate, but then like giving you the opportunity to be involved in the participation of the board member aspect of things? Okay. Okay. And we're taking that into consideration, I think 100%. We know you want to be involved. And the biggest thing is like, if people want to be involved and they want to, you know, show up to meetings, like that's 90% of what it takes, I feel like, to make it happen.
Definitely.
So
Yeah, sure.
I think if we all sort of take that moment to take that into consideration and feel
Yeah.
good about that, then I'm okay with one of us, or I can make the motion to appoint. I'm like blanking on name. I'm sorry.
Casey.
Casey, thank you. And the screen, I should go to this other screen where I can see it. I'm looking up at the screens in the room, and I'm like, oh, it's hard to see. But I have my computer right.
I won't make you say my last name.
Okay.
You can just take the first name.
How do you say your last name?
Canelio. It
Okay.
means little rabbit in Italian. Fun
Okay,
fact.
perfect. So I'll make a motion to appoint Casey Canelio as the alternate for the PROSAB board. And then Miranda, what do we need from there?
You just, someone to second.
Yeah, I would second that motion. Should we go around and take a vote?
Let's do it.
Okay. So Sam,
Yes?
Alex,
Yes.
Jesse, Trustee Sievers. Thumbs up. Okay.
Yes.
And Kat. Okay, motion approved. Casey, we are very thrilled to have you as the new alternate.
Well, recommended also. Sorry.
Recommended alternate. Yeah, now you get to go to the BOT and then they will decide whether recommendation.
And I'll add that.
Thank
like,
you all so much. I appreciate it.
welcome. Congratulations. And Lindsay, for you, like, just want you to know that we're like very highly aware of your excitement and interest, and we're going to take that into huge consideration during this like open period.
Yeah.
And we
and it-
encourage you to attend meetings and like
Yeah.
be participatory in the next meetings as well.
Yeah, and I do.
Well, for Miranda, does that mean, so will it be the next meeting where we are will it work for the 21-day process? Like, can that go out like ASAP?
Yeah.
So we
I don't know if I
vote
don't
on the
know if
new
Peter-
full board member?
Yeah, sorry, Kat. I don't know if Peter can get it out tomorrow, but definitely early next week to get it in time for your March meeting.
Okay. Yeah, that would
when
be
is the
awesome, because it'd be good not to, because then that meeting will also have to get to discuss a chair appointment also, right?
Agreed. Yes.
Yeah, the next meeting is March 16th. Will the bot have voted on the alternate recommendation by then?
Yep. So Casey, the alternate, well,
that's going to be my
guess-
question.
everyone will be invited. All 4 of your candidates will still be invited
Right,
to that meeting.
right.
But that'll be on March 7th.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome.
yeah,
I will
Casey,
be
if
there.
Recommend
That
going
sounds
to
great,
that
and
meeting.
I apologize, but I have to get off the meeting. I apologize. I had a pre-existing commitment in Denver, but I want to thank you all for your time. And if I need any more information, let me know. But otherwise, thank you, and I'll be at that meeting next month before the BOT.
Awesome. Thanks for making time for us.
Yes. Thanks. Take care.
Thank you.
So I think that is all we need on that item. Is there any questions moving forward as far as membership goes? Okay. Awesome. I'll just cruise on down the agenda then. Trails Master Plan prospectus. So this is just a discussion regarding the partnership on the Trails Master Plan project. I know Alex, Kat, Miranda, was it Nikki? Nikki there too, I think.
Nikki,
And you guys, yeah, okay. And Nikki met with the students for the walkabout about a week ago. So
And
okay. Oh, I'm Brian. So then we will turn it over to you guys, and you can debrief us on what went down for that.
Hi. Well, we all met up at town hall and we took them on, I think a really fun tour of the town parks. Not, every single thing, we had an hour and a half, I think, that we spent together. So it wasn't like the most intense tour, but they got to ride around with me and I gave them one of my best tours that I could give. And, in the end, we all kind of gathered at the rink and talked about where they would take it from there, compiling and gathering. But it was really helpful to them to know the details of what they're putting together. Just to see it on a map, to see it on paper is very different. Once you come and to get the lay of the land was very clarifying for them. So I think they were a pleasure to tour around for certain. I had a great day.
yeah, no, good. I think they're excited to come back up and, wander around some more, but I think it was helpful to, I think there were like maybe 2 or 3 particular things that seemed really helpful. Like one, the concept of connectivity being a major priority for this particular iteration of the Trails Master Plan, I think really came home when, like you have to kind of see that to understand in like especially a smaller town like ours compared to where they live. And then also the accessibility and EA component of things. So, and then also just the complications with intergovernmental, land ownership in different places, like, bridges and trails that aren't ours, but they connect to ours. And, like that kind of thing, I think it was a lot. I'm sure, like, it was a lot to take in, but I do think it was helpful to just be able to have those quirky factors that make all of the Trails Master Plan a little complicated and fun.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, and just in terms, Kat, Miranda, maybe Nikki, but I don't think Nikki's attending that. Myself and the students have a regular Tuesday meeting. This week it didn't happen because Miranda provided a bunch of documents that they were going to review. So we'll pick that up again this coming Tuesday.
I will be there. I will be there, Alex.
Okay.
And they have a great dog.
Oh yeah, that's the most important part, honestly.
Yeah. Pepper was
Yeah,
very
there were
cute.
several dogs in attendance on this tour. We forgot to mention.
Question just relative to that. Are there any like hurdles that we can help move out of their way to make this happen more easily for them or anything like that? Just things that come to mind, you know? And I wasn't able to make it, so I was just curious.
I don't think they have any outstanding asks to us now that Miranda has provided those
Yeah.
documents. I
Okay.
honestly think it's just gonna be a timing because I'm looking at their prospectus and seeing their first 3 chapters of the report are due in a week from
Oh.
today. So,
They're cracking down.
yeah, I think for them, they're probably in a time crunch.
Okay.
So to the extent we can be like streamlining and not like piling stuff on them, and making them jump through hoops would probably be appreciated.
Yeah.
Cool. I always know like projects like that, you know, it just seems like the least challenges we can put in front of them to help them do what they're doing for us is probably the better while still getting like the value out of it. So I just wanted to see if there's anything specific or sounded like all good.
Yeah, and I think they have a solid idea of what we're looking for based on prior discussions in the tour. Like I feel pretty confident that they're on track from like what town wants perspective.
Awesome. Sounds good. Is there anything else on the Trails Master Plan? Okay. This one will probably be fairly shortish too. We have pocket parks and the open space naming and signage. And I know this item, as we discussed at the last meeting, it really consists of the 3 smaller projects, which is, as Kat pointed out, renaming, installing the signage, and eventually potentially going before the planning commission and the Board of Zoning to discuss rezoning. And as far as renaming goes, CT did let me know that he reached out to Tammy Forrest and she is taking some time to think about the renaming, and she will get back to him in a few weeks. I am not sure where the signage stands. I know CT was going to connect with Nikki and Public Works on that. Did anything move forward on that? Do you know
No, I
Nikki?
did not hear from CT about
Okay.
coming up or anything.
Okay, so we'll just keep that on the agenda for next time then, and I'm sure CT will bring that up again.
Yeah, and the thing that I do think is important for us to do next time around is I do believe there should be a proposal put forward to the board for what this project looks like, and then the board should discuss and vote on support or not for whatever it is that we're doing. I think I don't want to get into the gray area of like a conversation happening and it starts happening without actually having the board make a decision on whether the full board is in support of a project or not. And I know I would love to hear more from neighbors, and the neighbors reached out, and so I do think stuff has started to move forward without the board actually having decided on anything, which makes me a little uncomfortable. So that's why I just want to make sure that if it's on the agenda next time around, we have like a very transparent conversation about what the goal is. Does everyone support it? Are there any questions or concerns? That sort of thing.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
It makes a ton of sense.
Jesse, do you know Kay? I forget the gentleman.
Yeah, I can give you a little feedback on that. So that was Bill Eichler and Kay Turnbow. They contacted PROSAB wanting to give some feedback on trail orientation, and they have some knowledge on the rare wood lilies. So I'll read a little bit of their message just for a public record. Bill and Kay, they live adjacent to the land and next to the private parcel where they say one of the social trails now originates. And he wrote, I was active in the negotiations when this parcel was originally designated as open space in 2000, and my wife and I assisted a few years ago in the official count of rare wood lilies that grow there. We hike there often and have ideas of how the existing social trails can be aligned in a more efficient way. So that's what he wrote. And I saw Kay today, and Bill contacted me. He emailed again. And he said he would like, if possible, a little time at the next meeting to make a brief presentation to share some of his feedback and the knowledge of that area. I did mention that I know CT wasn't here at this meeting, and it was going to be tricky for Bill to attend tonight. So he would like a slot to talk about this the next meeting.
I think that connects to Kat's comment though about whether we're even pursuing this, because I wouldn't want him to spin his wheels on a presentation if we weren't even moving forward with touching that space. So out of respect for his time, we might need the next meeting to talk about that. And then if we do go forward, of
And that will,
course.
I guess that will depend on whether the renaming will depend on whether Tammy wants it renamed after her too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
naming and the zoning are, I guess, two separate things. Like they don't
Yeah.
go hand in hand, and one is easier than the other in theory.
So you might
Yeah.
want to break it down into like those three smaller projects, have the renaming and vote on that, and the installing of the signage, make a solid discussion on a decision on that, and then the zoning,
Yeah.
which is a bigger issue.
And then to add,
Yeah, and I think
Sorry.
I guess like it is a little bit of a chicken and egg because like for me, I'd love to hear from like
Yeah.
Nikki on her thoughts about this since this is like in her purview, and from Miranda. And I would like to hear from Kay and Bill because they do seem really sort of invested in this over the years. So I guess like I don't know, I'm not quite sure which direction is best, but I'm curious what they think, right? Like, do they think this is a good idea? Like, as the neighbors, are they supportive of it? Like, does the town support this idea, or is this, you know what I mean? It came up really sort of like as like an idea, and we discussed it, but I don't. To me, it's very important to hear both from the town staff and from at least a couple of the neighbors before deciding to make a change to a neighborhood park. So that's for me, I'd rather hear from them before.
That's a good point. Nikki, could we not change the trails in that area, like the social trails? Would we have to redesignate it?
well, and there's another aspect, like if we, we'd sort of looked at that area as a bike park potential,
Right.
as well as social trails,
So
as well as walking trails.
when
since
you're hearing,
that complicates
sorry, go ahead.
further,
Yeah.
Yeah, but the bike park thing is going to create a whole can of worms. Like that's a huge different discussion than just making the open space.
And I'm sure there'll be like
When
opinions, from those same folks, as there should be,
Mhm.
whatever they may.
But I guess this is exactly why I think we need to be really clear about what it is that we're supporting as a board, because I think they're like putting a sign there is different than renaming, is different than rezoning, is different than creating a bike park. So I think, and for me, all of those are something that I think we need to hear from town staff and from neighbors before making a decision on.
Mhm.
So when you've been hearing me push back on the bike pump track and things like that up in that neighborhood, it's because of the neighbors being so heavily invested in that area. I don't want to change any of the trails until I hear from them. That is really important to me because Bill and Kay are, I mean, they have been seriously invested in that area, and they even counted the flowers. So, yeah, I wouldn't change anything without wanting to talk to them first. And it's really important to me to honor the people who live in that neighborhood and the impacts that changing trails and making new amenities up in that area would have on that neighborhood.
And it will have an impact,
Yeah.
I guess I'm just wondering,
Mhm.
since the trails are social trails, can we even reorient them per Bill's suggestion unless we convert them into official trails? It's more like a practical question.
Right. And I think what Bill wants to do is to get the social trails off of private land
Yeah.
and reorient them onto town public land,
that makes sense.
which is not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I
But
guess
you guys will really be interested in talking to Bill and Kay. They have a plethora of knowledge in that area.
yeah.
What's the best way to
So,
talk to them? Schedule a
I
meeting?
guess, like, here's what I would suggest, because I don't know that we have the people here to discuss this tonight. But I
Mhm.
think my suggestion, and I'm not sure exactly who the best person, because CT isn't here, but this was kind of an idea that he brought up. I mean, I think it's worth like hearing from key stakeholders about a couple of different things, right? Like one is the renaming, and one is sort of adjusting trails, and like anything to do with that. So I think it would be worth asking Bill and Kay, and anyone else who's interested in coming to talk to us about that.
Yeah.
And then after that, I think we can have a discussion as a board about how or if we want to proceed on any like components of those. I think the zoning conversation is a much longer, larger question, and the building of any sort of like, you know, bike facilities, that's also a much larger and more complicated question. So if it were me, I would suggest we just start with the simpler stuff, and get some, you know, start getting to know the neighbors and the folks involved, and like see what we as a board might, and obviously with like input from Nikki and Miranda as the town staff responsible for this property, like figure out where to go from there.
So maybe flyers to some of the folks who live up there and just invite them to either submit comments or to attend one of the upcoming meetings and get their feedback.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, again, I think it's hard to talk about this without CT here, since this is his project. You know?
Yeah, I
So-
understand wanting to hear from people, but I do go back to not wanting to spin our wheels on something that we're not even sure we want to pursue. But I agree that hearing
Yeah.
from Bill and Kay at the next meeting, and Jesse, since you've been the primary conduit, I'm happy to take over and reach out to them and let them know they're like welcome at the next meeting if they want to give a presentation, unless you would prefer to do so. Seems like the next right step.
Yeah, there will be great context to have.
Yeah.
I think they've lived there since the 70s too. So
You know if they generally know like the rest of the neighborhood too, so sort of the neighborhood can give input otherwise, like they can let people know as well, sort of help with that.
Yeah. No, I agree with Alex. I don't think we need to make like a huge thing of it, this initial conversation, but they seem like they're kind of important to talk with. So Alex, thank you for offering to do that. It's much appreciated.
but nip it in the butt before the rumor mill starts churning.
Yeah, well, that's how it, the Mountaineer
Yeah.
wrote about our last meeting. And
Oh,
then
that's right.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think.
Although it made it sound like it was like absolutely going forward, which is partially what brought up my point about we need to be really clear.
Yeah.
If like we're having discussion versus we're like moving forward with a board approved project, which this is not yet. So, but a discussion is a discussion. So.
Yeah.
Okay, so way forward on this is I'll reach out to Bill and Kay and invite them to the next meeting, hoping that works. If not, maybe we can have a smaller group make alternate arrangements with them. And then maybe CT would be around for the next meeting to have kind of a bigger discussion about after we hear that presentation, pursuing this in general.
Yeah.
Great.
That sounds good.
And we'll just put it as an action item on the next meeting. That way. we
Put it
have
on the
slot for
agenda,
them, and
yeah.
We'll put it at the beginning if they're showing up to present so that.
Yeah, it's like public comment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, the action that you would want to discuss would be, renaming, and then the signage where those signages would be located. Those would be the two probably things you would want to move on if you wanted to move at the next meeting.
Yeah, and if we wanted to create some sort of like working group to figure out next steps,
that's a good
like
idea.
I think, right, like
Yeah.
there are a lot of different ideas. So
Yeah.
like, do we want to designate a working group to dig in?
Yeah, that's a good idea, Kat. Any other thoughts on this issue? Okay, So just moving down, we have bike park and pump track. Any updates from Sam and Jesse?
We do have some updates. Exciting,
Mhm.
actually. So I'll dive in and then I'll let Jesse jump in and talk about what's on the meeting agenda here as far as funding to send Jesse and a staff member to IMBA Trails Lab conference in April. And so first I'm going to talk about the bike park pump track aspect of it. I actually met with Tanya from the NDDA and just to see, okay, if PROSAB decides that we want to go forward with it, which is something that has to happen formally, right? And I'll talk about it separately. One is Tanya was like, we are really excited about the pump track and the downhill stuff. They were psyched about both. And I was like, okay, cool. Let's kind of keep them separate just so since they're separate pieces of land and decisions and funding and things like that. So I met with her and the basically outcome of that was what questions would I need to be able to answer at their meeting to get the initial funding to get the design of this done by a professional company. So we have a professional design. And then from that point forward, do we use that company or do we use a combination of like local services that can, like Jesse's company and an asphalt company that can actually pour it? Or do we look at using American Ramp Company, which is they do the Velo Solutions tracks, and have them build it in some collaboration or non-collaboration, and what's the total cost of that? And so basically they have a planning concept process. And now what I'm doing with them right now is getting clear on what their final number is, because it went from like 7,500 to do this, which is the sort of standard, to up to 15,000. That was June to now, it's like, okay, why is it going up? Is it just they've raised their prices, demand? What can they do for us since we had initial conversations? Is there anything, what makes it like kind of the minimum viable piece? So they're working on that right now to see if they can bring that down. I had a conversation with them today. And then they are also really cool. They are reaching out and helping get us introduced to other towns in Colorado that have gotten grant money to fund these really sweet pump tracks that they've designed. And they're going to help us set up meetings with them so we can learn from their mistakes, and we don't have to make the same mistakes. Why did they go with them? What was the process? And so that's kind of the current setup, so that when we go to the NDDA meeting, if we decide as PROSAB that we want to like say, yep, we want to do this, which that would be the outcome of either this meeting or the next meeting, when everybody feels like we have the details on it enough to vote on moving it forward, as in, yes, NDDA. The question would be like, yes, do we want to recommend to NDDA to move forward with funding the design concept part of it, which allows us to go after more fundraising grants and things of that nature more easily? And that was kind of what I learned from meeting with them, is if you have this design and concept piece, then you can go get those grants. It's kind of like, because I was like, can we do that before it? And they're like, you can, but it's just a lot harder, right? And you really need that to look good and to show up ready to actually receive some of that. So, and to be a serious contender. And so that's beneficial to know. And I'm excited about having those appointments. I'm trying to set them up within the next month so that we can like move it forward. And I'll put it out once I actually have the meeting, so anybody on the board could come and attend with me, because I think it'd be cool to learn, like what are these other towns learning about this, and other, I'm sure we'll learn other stuff too, because it's part of bigger projects that they do. And so that's the immediate update in terms of the function piece. And what Tanya told me was that most likely the NDDA is going to look to PROSAB and say, does PROSAB want this? We're doing the investigation portion still, basically. I think we all know we want a pump track, like we're all excited about it, but officially, do we kind of give a nod of forward to say, hey, NDDA, we'd like to see you fund the design and concept component so we can move this forward and move the grant process or fundraising process forward for it. And we will also be able to know more clearly, once the design and concept phase is done, what the actual cost is, to do what we want to do with the different approaches, right? So like one approach is we have them do everything. The other approach is we have more local businesses do everything. And then the middle approach is we have a mix of them maybe doing more of the finished work and guiding the process. And we're having local companies actually do more of the earthwork and like volunteering, maybe even to help move some stuff around if we want to go that route. And so that was some of the options they shared with me in terms of ways communities have done it. So that's any questions on that part, and then I'll kind of move on to the next pieces of the downhill oriented stuff.
My question
Yeah.
for the design
Yeah,
is,
yeah.
do we need to know where, or the design is irrespective of location?
We do need to know where. And
Okay.
so currently we're going after that Chipeta Park spot that Nikki has said, yep, we can do it. Now we can adjust it. But that's like the current thought process.
Yeah.
So
Well, and I think
go
I
ahead.
think the last time we talked about this at a meeting, we had requested as a board to see sort of the location and some specs down on either paper or virtual paper in order to have a better idea of whether we supported it overall as a board. So it sounds like that's still in the works phase, right? Like, so we're not there yet, or
That's a good question. And I may have skipped over that, and I apologize. So in previous meetings, we talked about like a while back now being excited about the Chipeta Park, but we can revisit it and actually like, we can take a Google map and draw like, here's where it would generally be here's where it would be in Chipeta Park. Here's the access points and everything like that. We did have like a walkthrough of that space at one point, but we can do it again.
well, I guess what I'm saying is that I think if we're gonna, we don't have anything to look at in terms of this project. And so, because we as a group talk about a lot of different things, including various different bike projects. And so I think if we're going to, I think what we had requested 2 or 3 meetings ago was to have something on paper that is specific, like it's got to like something tangible, so we can say this is the project that is being investigated, and like at some point we like here's the basic specs, here's like the location, here's the size. Like I'm not suggesting that we go back and look at other locations. I think Chipeta Park has come to be the best location for a lot of different reasons. But I think I think we need to be less vague if we're going to move forward with this, because that's again how the rumor mill gets started, and also it's just really confusing to remember, like especially with new people coming in.
Absolutely.
To know what we're talking about. So I think if like the pump track project is something that is being driven forward and investigated, then we do need to see it like in spec before we go much further. And then I think it can be continually updated.
And that's, so what I can do then for that is we can make we can take a map and we can put it on and we can show, here's what other pump tracks of this nature look like. And then here's where we're thinking of doing it. And then the actual design and concept process would give us a actual visual of here's our final outcome. But I think it sounds like what you're saying is to get there, to get to where we're saying, yeah, we want to approve or like recommend the funding for that stage, that NDDA go forward with that. We really need to vote officially on like, this is the rough space where the track will go, and this is what will be likely affected, this is what won't be affected, right? Like,
Yep.
we're taking out the basketball court, but we're going to affect this edge of Chipeta to here and draw it out, because we can draw a 2D, out, and then we could move forward with like the actual design and concept piece that would allow us to go after.
Yeah.
funding.
And I think,
Sound-
there's going to be different stages. Like
Yeah.
there's going to, like, you mentioned last meeting that likely it's asphalt now, but I think that's a question that we haven't addressed on this board in a couple of months.
We haven't.
So, and I don't want to discuss that tonight because I don't
Let's
think we
not.
have the
Let's do
background
that.
information to discuss that.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that I do think it would be good. This is a big project. So
It's a
I
big
think
project,
it would be good it would, I think for this project, it would be good to have like 2 or 3 touch points where the board can check back in, look at the thing and be like, yep, thumbs up. You know what I mean? So I think the very basic first one is knowing where and like the basic specs of this project, and then we'll go from there. But I do think it's important for this board to be able to look at something, so
Absolutely.
we're all on the same page.
Like approximate locations, size, and materials would be something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Go ahead, like Jesse, like please do. You don't have to put your hand up or just go talk.
I can just say that real quick. I can commit to that aspect of it for sure, so that we can bring that to the board.
Yeah.
That sounds great, Sam. Kat, I was just gonna say, I thought that in our last meeting, I remember that discussion, and that I think was a little, or that was actually targeted at the downhill track stuff, because the pump track stuff has been, in my mind, much more in the box, and essentially like Nikki could ultimately just make the call on that because it's under her. She's said that before, I think, is just like, I'm in support of this, and I could ultimately just say, yeah, we can build a pump track here.
No, but my understanding is that both Miranda and Nikki have asked that this go through the public process, is my understanding the last time I talked about this.
That's right.
So I do think like we're actually getting pretty far ahead of ourselves and discussing this as though it's already been decided it's happening. So what I'm suggesting is that we take a step back and think about what are the process points that we need to go through and what are the things that we need to make that happen. And Miranda, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that we're still in like discussion.
I guess I'd like to ask you.
Phase 1 of the NPP we're in, for sure.
Yeah, so there's a long way to go on this, and there's going to be a lot of people whose input is needed, and I feel like we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves.
I guess I would like to know if there's a desire on behalf of PROSAB to develop bicycle terrain in Nederland.
I think there's no objections to it.
Do you feel the same way, Kat?
I mean, I think it's a very vague question that I'm not comfortable answering.
Well, if you look at the master plans of
depends on many factors.
Yeah. I mean, I think like one of the points I'm trying to make, and I think we discussed at the last meeting, is that we have an amazing group of really passionate people on this group. And I think we have a lot of really interesting discussions. And I think it's really important for us as an advisory committee to think about like that in the bigger picture and to be clear about when we're discussing something versus putting a proposal forward. The pump track in particular, I think is a really cool potential project. But again, it's very vague. I can't really say like thumbs up or thumbs down without seeing like something on spec. I just don't think it's a responsible thing to do. So that's the point I'm trying to make. I think it'd be super exciting to like see this project go forward, but I think we all need to be like a bit more upfront with each other about like what those projects are and like whether something is kind of going forward with board support.
Right. I guess I'm just trying to see if developing bike terrain has board support.
I guess it would depend. I mean, what would the DDA, what would the materials be?
Jesse?
Pardon me?
Yeah. I mean, if the DDA was going to fund a design spec, would Velo Solutions require knowledge of dirt versus asphalt?
They do asphalt only.
Okay, so that would be the first thing that PROSAB would have to weigh in on, is whether they want to move forward with that and whether we got the environmental kind of implications of that regarding runoff.
The Nederland planning process would would require a stop at the Sustainability Advisory Board as well.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
And I would imagine that they would probably have plenty to chime in on the environmental implications of the various materials.
But yeah, to go back to your question, there's two Jessies. Sorry, to go back to your question, Jessie Sievers. I think each individual member of PROSAB will have a different response to that question. And I think each individual member would have a different sense of what that question means. So I think like if we were going to do like a big picture goal envisioning process, we could do that. But I think to ask that question without any sort of like context or specifics it's not like, to me, it's a hard thing to say because like obviously I love bikes. I'm a huge mountain biker. And I think like we all need to think about the Trails Master Plan and like all of the work that we do here in a really big picture way in terms of both what like the staff prioritizes, the community prioritizes.
Right.
So
How much burden are we going to be putting on town staff for this?
So I think, you know, it's an interesting one question out of perhaps 15 for a visioning process, but that's not where we're at this second. I think for the particular project that Sam is talking about, I think we have a good sense of what we need going forward. But I also do want to like flag that I think coming into this as a relatively new PROSAB member just a few months ago, I was under the impression this project was like locked and loaded, right? Like that it was going ahead. And now I understand that that's actually not true. We're like really, really at the beginning of this process. And so I just want to make sure that we're taking all the steps to do this as efficiently and effectively as possible.
Well, Kat, I'll second your, you know, the thought process of like, the questions have to be specific for people to be able to support them or not, you know, and like, yes, I think a lot of us like bikes and that's totally the case. But when it comes to saying yes, relative to other priorities and things going on that you know, we have to be able to say, here's specifically what's being proposed. Do we want to support that specific thing? And does everybody know? And I think the reality is I came into the board pretty new championing this project. And so we've started it, I feel like about 5 times. And that's okay. Cause part of it is me learning, you know, how to start the projects well. And versus, okay, we've went through it a couple different ways and then learned during that process. You know, if we just went the dirt route, I think everybody would be like, yeah, cool, let's do it, you know, but dirt's cheap and fast and it falls apart quick. And that's the problem we learned. We went through the starting point a couple of times and it was like, oh, we started talking to people. We started learning things.
Oh, there's no, like, there needs to be a paper trail too.
Exactly.
That's the issue.
Exactly.
And so, you know, part of that is
to see those like that, those kind of the research statistics and the analytics for that to be able to weigh in.
Yeah. Cause like, I feel like you've talked about that a bit and it totally makes sense. And also other people are going to need to, you know, hear that
and share it in a way that everybody can access it. And that's part of me learning, you know, how to move a project forward as well.
Totally.
And
Alex, you had your hand up too. Sorry to talk over you.
Oh, no, you're fine. I appreciate the dialogue from everyone. This has been great to listen to. I think my only comment is there's several bike projects, honestly, which I, as a board member, can't even keep straight. Jesse, I know you have kindly offered your labor and your machinery towards one of the projects. I know the pump track, I think there's one other project that maybe has been floating around. I don't even know. But I guess in terms of the question, are we prioritizing like bike terrain? You know, doing one project versus 3 is kind of different. Like, I don't know if you know, if we know one is going forward, we don't pursue the other. So it's kind of like all needs to move in tandem if these are all on the table, because maybe I wouldn't prefer the bike track if another bike project was moving forward that was being entirely funded by a very kind trustee in his company. So just not to say pump track can never happen, but given limited resources, like maybe not doing 2 bike projects within like a 2-year span or something. So it's all kind of big picture. It'd be helpful if any of these, if we are trying to move more than the pump track forward, if we're putting the pen to paper on the pump track, to see pen to paper on any other bike proposal as well, so they can be considered in a big picture and kind of weigh pros and cons of each. Open to pushback on that, but I've frankly had a hard time keeping track of the various bike proposals as a non-biker myself.
Well, I think that's fair because they've been like all over the place in terms of we could do here, we could do this. We've talked a lot about different places for downhill oriented stuff relative to, you know, compared with pump track stuff.
Yeah.
And I think it is confusing. And there have been a lot of discussions that were, you know, had. And I think at this point, what needs to happen is like put down, where are we at? What have we learned? And what are the next steps? And put the paper trail together for it, you know, so that it's clear and everybody can be like,
Yeah.
oh, this is what we've learned. Here's where we're at. Here's where the process. And I'll take ownership of like learning about how to move a project forward in town, being new and being like, okay, that's not the right way to do it, you know, or like we missed a step, you know, or we got people together and then we realized we thought that land was available, but it's not really actually available yet, you know, come to find out, which makes a difference in like, actually that's off the table right now, you know? So I think to kind of wrap this up, so we're not talking about it all night too, for everybody's time, is like, what I can do at this point is say, here's where we're at, kind of like put together here's who we've talked to, here are the different things that have been discussed, here's what's on the table in terms of things that we can actually discuss, utilize, like land we can discuss utilizing, and land that's really not on the table from a town perspective, you know, to even discuss. And, you know, we went and looked at one area and it's like, turned out there was a bunch of sensitive flowers. And it's like, well, we didn't know that going to it, you know? And so it's like, had we known that, maybe we wouldn't have gone there in the first place. You know what I mean? So those aspects, and that way we all are clear and know there aren't questions, you know? And then we'll just come forward with like the pump track specific component. I mean, I can draw with a computer program just as well as anybody else, you know? Like, here's what it would generally look like in this spot, not the actual angles of the curve, you know, but like close, it's going to look a track like this, and it's going to, you know, ride kind of like this. And from there, I think we can kind of like level set and then move forward confidently and clearly. And of course, this is a project I'm excited about because I've been spending time on it, but I completely agree relative to the other projects. It's like, we can't move projects forward and be an efficient board if we're doing it through like a general sense of, I think we're moving this forward versus like, are we moving this forward or are we not, you know? And that is how we need to operate as a board. Otherwise, we're not functional. Whether it's my project that I'm excited about or somebody else's, you know, and it's okay for us all to be like passionate about the projects that we want to do because that's how they get done. But it doesn't mean that we skip the process or we, you know, do it in a vague way. And I know that's not the intention of anybody here for any of these, and that's not my intention, but it is a learning process. And I think one of the things we can do is, as new board members come on, and we might benefit all from doing this, is like do a little educational on here's actually how the processes work, so that if you want to pursue something, we know how to do it right. Because I know that's something I ran into. I was like, oh, that's not the right way to do it. Whoops.
Yeah.
Take a step back.
No,
you know?
totally, Sam. Because like the whole public process thing, like it might just be good to do, like, especially if we have 2 new
Yeah.
members in the next couple of months, like,
Right.
here's how this generally works. Like,
Yeah.
totally think the same thing. And your thought about putting to what you said earlier about like putting some stuff down and where stuff's at, all that sounds amazing and like
Yeah.
super duper helpful. So I appreciate you offering to do that.
And some of the like data driven stuff around the dirt stuff is like literally talking to people who maintain bike tracks, and it's like they don't have great data, but they're like, oh yeah, we have to go out every 3 to 5 days and like move the dirt around. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I don't know that that's going to happen sustainably, you know? And
Yeah.
when we started talking about it, we realized like, oh, it's not just like maintain it once a year. It's like, this is a totally different thing. And it's cheap up front, essentially.
Yeah.
But if it's not maintained, the fun factor goes way down. So it's like, okay, what are all alternatives? Well, asphalt's kind of the best alternative right now. And so what I'll do, so we can wrap this topic up for tonight, if everybody's okay with that, is all document this. That way we can move it forward in a way that we all feel is like truly respecting the process. So that we don't have all these false starts, essentially, you know? Because of course it's frustrating for me to go like, okay, we're moving forward. Okay, wait a second. Okay, we're not, you know? And it's a marathon, but it's for anybody to do that, will matter the project, it can get a little demoralizing and then you give up. And so if we know how the process works, then you can feel like confident that you're moving things forward appropriately for all of us, I think. My 2 cents.
No, that all sounds really smart.
Yeah, and you don't have to prepare a literature review on this. Like
Yeah.
even a 1 or 2
Yeah,
pager
yeah,
is, I think, gonna
Cool.
like go a very long
But I
way.
think it's
Yeah.
fair and respectable to like bring it in a way that everybody, feels like, okay, we understand it, we're
Yeah.
clear on it. And we did
Right.
the process because we got ahead of ourselves thinking, well, I got ahead of myself thinking like, okay, I think we're ready to go discuss this with other boards and see, are they interested, and then bring it back to PROSAB to say, here's what we found from other boards.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it felt like, oh, it's really concrete. It really wasn't at that point,
Yeah.
So,
I think that
Yeah, and I
that's
think like
some of the misunderstanding. Yeah.
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 And like from a personal perspective, like I'm super psyched about this
Oh.
potential pump track thing.
Yeah.
And like, but I also know that there are certain things that are gonna trigger, right? Like
Oh,
this,
absolutely.
like whether it's asphalt or dirt, like I think
right, we went through that
I
initially.
I,
It's like,
I would hate to see that like become the downfall of the thing. You know what I mean? Is kind of where I'm coming from on this, because I think it's a super cool project personally,
cool.
like just as a personal person. So
Yeah.
so yeah, no, I think that all sounds really, really thoughtful and smart, and you should, yeah. So we would deeply appreciate all the work that both of you are doing on this. So
Let me ask one more question relative to this. So we got the pump track stuff. We have a general idea of where that's going to be, but we'll put it on paper,
Yeah.
so that we know where in Chipeta Park is the proposal, all that kind of stuff. And then, Nikki, let me ask you a question real quick. Is it safe to say, tell me if it's not, that you're okay with that prospective location? Obviously, you have,
West of the basketball court at Chipeta Park.
yeah, essentially.
That's for the pump track. That's absolutely where I want it.
Okay.
I think it makes the most sense. It's the only place we could have it. It's got great location. It connects to the skate park, so we could have
Mhm.
a kid playing at the skate park and another one on the pump track at the same time. If I have to kick a kid out of the skate park, they're going to the pump track because they're on their bike or whatever. It's the only location that makes sense.
All right. And you feel free to change your mind if you decide otherwise. And let us know.
Won't. I've been thinking about this for 4 years, maybe more.
Cool. And then relative to, I'll ask y'all, what should we do relative to approaching downhill terrain at this point? Like sort of features, banked features. Like number one, we could come with like kind of some pictures of features. We did that at one point, but we could kind of do it again, revisit it and say, here's what the features would look like, maybe a video of somebody riding some similar features. And then how should we approach which piece of land to start seriously talking about, voting for putting it on? If we want to talk about that one as well, because that is something that Jesse is able to, Sievers is able to accomplish relatively quickly and we don't need to raise money for that. So we could have that more quickly in terms of just like things for kids to do, and people to do, adults, not just kids. And,
Potentially by the end of the summer.
right. And so if we want to be serious about that, what is the best way? Because we did do we walked pieces of land, we looked at the options just to get an initial sense that we could bring back to the board. At this point, what is the best way to approach that? I'll ask the question.
Anyone want to tackle that?
And if nobody knows, or maybe it's a Miranda question at this point.
I mean, if I was just going to it ties back into the last item that we were discussing, which is stakeholder input, which is really like what you said about going around the neighbors and getting them to give specific feedback, like Bill and Kay. And
yeah.
well, and I think it probably, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it is in part like a Nikki Miranda starting question, right?
Yeah.
To like figure out what are the, like, say there's 2 options, there might be 6, I have no idea, but like, are there like, and you might already know this, right? Like, but what are the 1, 2, 3 options? And then sort of maybe, I don't, like a SWOT analysis or something, like a troubleshoot, like, this is great for 10 reasons, and there's a couple of key, there's, you know what I mean? And like maybe prioritize would be my, and then prioritize which 1 or 2 to dig into, I
Yeah.
think.
That's what we did on the tour when Jesse and Sam and
Okay.
I went on the tour.
Cool.
That's exactly what we did. And Wingate, Joe Smith, and the Big Springs Park area were probably the top 3. But I think that in the least amount of pushback is probably Wingate.
Yeah,
But
that would
anyway,
be my guess
they
too.
we did that.
And Nikki, at this point, where do we stand with the Wingate? Just to ask that question, because I think we went on that tour and then realized like it actually wasn't quite done, the handover to town.
So the handover still isn't quite done. We're working on the subdivision, which
Okay.
will have to go through the planning commission. Still some discrepancies about the survey itself is what I'm working through. So
Gotcha.
we're probably 6 months out
Okay.
from getting that finalized.
So is it worth exploring, Nikki? I'll ask you that question.
Yes.
Okay.
Wingate, yes, absolutely.
That's
That's
at
the
that point when it was like, wow, it's kind of a while out. You know, it's unlikely to get it done in a quick manner. What are our other options? But if you feel like it's worth exploring, then I'm open to re-exploring that and being documented about our process with it. And I can meet with you and you can kind of walk me through the details. So we don't have to do it all here if you want, and then I can bring them back to the board.
sure. Sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean it's 6 months. 6 months it takes it takes longer than that to make a decision on whether or not we need to go to the bathroom. So I think yeah, absolutely. We've got let's just keep picking at it.
All right. Well, I'll set something up and then we can bring back what we learned about like where things are at and realistic timelines on the different properties. And then we can talk to people who live around them.
I also wonder,
Super cool.
and this is something that I don't know the answer to this, and I don't really have an opinion on it, but I'm wondering, since we're working on this Trails Master Plan, which is going to go through a whole bunch of public comment, and like the whole process, like, Miranda, does it make sense to like incorporate both of these in that? Is that like a thing that we can do? Like, just trying to be like efficient and not have to do like multiple processes, like.
Yeah, I guess my only hesitation in what you're probably going to get faced with in all the other boards is like, if you're not ready, why are you bringing it to them?
Exactly.
If you want to do a concept and talk with them concept, I wouldn't necessarily call it that you're running it through the MPP process.
Right.
You would have to go twice because you're really talking conceptual ideas, and then you're coming back through the process with your real plans.
Would be
So it's up
around-
to you if you want to.
That would be like our third time.
Yeah,
which
it'll
is
be
totally
like
fine.
just
I like
third
second
time's the
ones.
charm. So it's really up to you whether you want to commit the time, but I don't think we would call that
Does it
completing
feel
the
like an
MPP.
efficient use of the other board's time, or is it kind of like a waste of their time?
I would probably be selective. I don't know if I would bring it through
Yeah.
every board. I think maybe SAB and
Yeah.
the Wingate falls outside of the DDA's jurisdiction. So it's
Okay,
like,
okay.
that's not a great use. I don't know, Nikki, what do you, my feeling is like SAB and youth,
And planning commission, they don't want to see it yet.
Yeah. Youth.
right? They will not want to
It's
see
not
it
like
until you're
detail.
ready to go.
Yeah, we got to show up ready.
But I think the youth and the sustainability advisory board.
We could bring it back through them because we talked to them about it
Mhm.
as a concept before, but we could bring it back through as like a bit better fleshed out concept, maybe have some better drawings that, that was like very initial. Do you guys have an interest in it here when we brought it through the first time? We can do that. That's fine with me. And if Nikki feels like Wingate's the spot, then maybe we just like try and do the spot versus, the trying to do the spot that's like the least controversial, just so that it's easiest to approach it. And, there's other spots that are like, would work, but they're just kind of controversial because there's other priorities there. And this is something that doesn't have to compete necessarily. If we can find a place for it where it doesn't have to compete, try to put it there.
Do you have enough? Do you
I
think
think
to?
that's the smartest choice.
Oh, go ahead, Nikki.
I was just just said that I think that is the smartest choice. The Wingate's the one we're not going to get a lot of. There's no other, there's nothing else we can do with that property, and there's no, sensitive plants. There's no elk migration. There's no pushback points from Wingate. So
It also sounded like a really smart location, like as a connector, right? Like the way you were describing it, Nikki.
yeah, going up to Magnolia and connecting into those trails there. It's got a good access into town. It's easy access to,
You could potentially
our
sell it
sidewalk
as
system.
fire mitigation too.
We talked about that at one point.
Absolutely, Jesse. Yes. Yes.
All right. So next steps, Nikki, I'll set up a meeting with you, bring that back to the board, and then I'll create the paper trail essentially and some more information about the specifics of the pump track. And we'll try and keep them separate thought processes because they are separate. They're bikes, but they're separate projects and they have different implications.
And really different kind of bikes.
They are different kind of bikes. All right.
It's a big one though. Yeah, be prepared to spend lots of your life on this.
Sounds great. And I have a child now, so it's important to help make things happen in the long term. Not that it wasn't before.
Yeah, it's good. It'd be great for
Eric,
Right
you want to say something?
fab for kids.
Eric has
Eric wants to
public
say
comment.
something.
Yes, please do.
I think the Wingate property is always the one that made sense, but I still recommend that it is presented with a slate of options.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, people think you're targeting them, right, in their neighborhood, and they'll say, why haven't you thought of anything else? Of course, you have thought of something else, but it's not on paper.
List out those pros and cons.
Cons. yeah.
Exactly. So if you had a
That's a
slate of 3 properties and you kind of said, this is the one that we're recommending, and here are all the reasons why,
Yeah.
then it's going to make a lot more sense to folks.
That is a very good point.
Just taking notes. All right, I'm good there.
Okay.
I don't have any other things. If you all want to discuss funding Jesse, staff member, to the IMBA Trails Lab, certainly welcome to do that.
Yeah, who wants to introduce that?
Probably Jesse, because I don't really know about it. I just know it's in Bentonville, Arkansas, and that's the current mountain bike capital of America.
All right. Take it
Maybe
away.
before Jesse launches in, I just want to get this
Yeah.
out. So why this is before you is the Board of Trustees does have $2,000 for training. However, that is for all 7 of them.
Okay.
And this would cost more than that. So the ask is, are you willing to use Conservation Trust Fund money for this? And you have $24,000 set aside for that. Obviously, and I do think it's important to hear from Nikki because she does have
Yeah.
something she'd like to use for, but that's where you're choosing if you want to allocate these funds. And then if so, are you sending just Jesse? Are you interested in sending others? What does that look like?
Miranda, what's Conservation Trust Fund?
It's the money-
Is that the Broncos money? or
No,
whatever?
that's Metropolitan Football Fund. So this is every year we just get a kind of a continuous rolling of Conservation Trust Fund money that comes from the lottery. So it's
okay.
always just kind of a fallback. It's its own fund. Last year you dedicated those funds to buy the baby tractor. This year those funds just sit. We view those as earmarked funds for PROSAB to decide. So it's not something parks can just use. They typically have to come ask, which is why this ask is before you, is we would never release those funds without PROSAB approval.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
So should we ask, Jesse, you sent me a link to it, just kind of it came across your radar. What, do you want to help us understand it a little bit better?
Yes.
I think the important thing is what's the benefit of sending you? Obviously it's radical and we're probably going to learn some cool stuff that you can use. And that's great. But also what's the benefit? You know what I mean? I think that's an important thing for us to understand the board. And
what would it cost?
yeah. And what other mountain biker wants to go if we're sending 2 people? Because I think I actually have some conflicts on those dates, unfortunately. Because I know I would, since I'm involved with the bike stuff, it sounds like, Kat, maybe you're on the radar for that.
Yeah.
I've always
So.
wanted to bike Arkansas.
So yeah, it actually came from Brian Curtis, who initially found it and sent it over to Sam and myself
That's right.
as an opportunity, and said, "Hey, you guys might want to look into this." And I kind of grabbed it and ran with it a little bit. And I think in all of this bicycle discussion, for me, this has really been an exercise in how do things get done in Nederland? How do we get things done in Nederland? And my my initial desire was to help get bicycling terrain done in Nederland before I joined the BOT actually. And I was just really excited about it. Just kind of been super excited about mountain biking for the last 10 years. And so with the success of my excavation company, I figured I could really easily build mountain bike terrain, and I would love to build that for my community, and I would be willing to donate that, and for the opportunity to create it, and for the opportunity to give something to the community, and to be able to have it too. And so I put it out there that, hey, I'd be willing to do this. And Sam, but I don't know how to get things done in Nederland, basically, other than I know how to move dirt, but I don't know how to get things done in the public process. Even though I had been in it 10 years ago, I was on the SAB and then I was on the planning commission for a little while. I just didn't see a whole lot get done for all the amount of time that we spend in meetings. And compared to how much I can get done when I'm out running an excavator, it's mind blowing to me. And so I was like, well, I'll very gladly go out and move the dirt, but as far as getting something done in the public process, that is daunting to me. I don't know how to do that. So that's where Sam said, well, I'll be your champion, and I'll help get that part done. And so Sam and I have been teamed up trying to get this stuff done and going since. And as fate would have it, I joined the BOT throughout this whole process, and now I'm here with you guys on this board too, which I'm super excited about. And I hope you guys feel the same way, by the way. We haven't had any pomp and circumstance or ceremony about me joining. I really appreciated Eric Coombs's speech about stepping down and passing the torch to me. But I digress. I'm really excited about it, and I hope you guys feel the same. I hope the feeling is mutual. And so that's what this Trail Labs is kind of all about in many respects, as I read it, is essentially how does bicycle terrain get established in communities? How does the community organizing work? And IMBA is the International Mountain Biking Association. They're headquartered in Boulder, and sort of I actually used to work at IMBA when I first graduated from grad school, and I couldn't find work. I got a data entry job at IMBA. And it was great, but it was minimum wage. It was pretty boring work, but I got to meet those folks, and it's a really cool organization. And one of the biggest I learned while I was there, one of the biggest embarrassments of IMBA is that their international headquarters is in Boulder, Colorado, but it's known in the mountain biking community that Mira, I'm trying to talk. You're interrupting. Let me finish.
Yeah, come over here.
That Boulder and Boulder County are really not very well established as mountain bike terrain areas and communities with respect to the other areas that are that. Boulder City, for example, has very little mountain bike terrain, and Nederland is really the destination for Boulder City, even though Nederland hasn't really specifically focused on building purpose-built mountain bike terrain. There's great hiking trails, and the hiking and the bikers share quite well. But as far as what some of the communities have done throughout the country and the world, Boulder City and Boulder County are quite far behind. And so, we also have the Walmart Foundation that Brian Curtis offered to Sam and myself to try to make a connection for us to meet this guy who's really been spearheading a lot of the Bentonville, Arkansas trail building. And the Walmart Foundation has been investing heavily in the Bentonville, Arkansas mountain bike trail networks there, and they've really put Bentonville on the map. And it's become, you know, they're claiming to be the mountain bike capital of the world, and they don't have the kind of terrain that we have. They just have the focus and the dedication to mountain biking, and so they've really surpassed so many areas of the world in their mountain biking.
So just in the interest of time, maybe we could
Yeah.
you could keep this to about
Wrap
maybe
it up.
4 more minutes.
Anyway, so it's a great opportunity for me to network and for me to learn skills towards community organizing, to actually see what other, you know, to try to get a workshop on how to rally the community and how to organize and to sort of get this initiative done. And I put together kind of, I looked at the plane ticket, I looked at some lodging and, you know, a little bit of food stipend. And it looks like, you know, I totaled up, I sent over something to Miranda pretty last minute, so she wasn't able to forward that on to you guys, I don't think, but it was about
Share this.
$13.50.
You have it.
Okay, so 1,350 for one person, and then if you know, if two of us went, you know, we could probably share the lodging cost a little bit, and I estimated maybe another 1,000 for a second person. It's $600 for the event, be a couple nights lodging and a plane ticket and a little bit of food, and that's what that would be. So that's my pitch, and I'd love it to have you guys' support and to have you know, PROSAB kind of make an investment in me as a volunteer and a leader to try to make some of this stuff happen. So
wait, what would be the total cost?
$13.50 for just me.
Okay.
And that's, you know, I haven't bought the plane ticket yet and I haven't booked the lodging yet. So, but I figure I could operate within that budget just fine. And then if we sent a second person, I was estimating it would be a little bit less because we could double up on lodging. So I was estimating 1,000 for a second person.
Okay. Nikki?
Yeah, well, I did have plans for using some of that conservation money this year to try. It's going to come to you guys to ask for projects happening around the rink, and wanted to utilize some of that money to put towards the amending of the soil at Chipeta Park, or I mean at Barker Meadows Park. I can make it happen without that money, but then it puts a lot of the rest of my world on hold. But I think $1,300 is not gonna make or break me. I was thinking it was gonna be more like 6,000. So I don't have a staff. I have not asked my staff, but I cannot go to this. So I don't know that I would ask which staff member I would ask, or if anyone would even be able to go. But I would say, in my opinion, if we sent Jesse, that wouldn't make or break me. Adding another person is something that would, you know, that we're diving into Netherlands money. Do you want the parks built, or do you want to send 2 people to a bike conference? And you know, so that's kind of my opinion. I'm hesitant to send more than just Jesse, but I do think, you know, at least someone having the knowledge isn't necessarily a bad thing. But yeah, it's taking money away from Netherlands, so I'd say tread lightly.
We'll open it up to you guys, Kat and Alex and Sam.
Miranda, you said the board had $2,000. Can they pitch in half or something?
I think you can definitely bring it back and say we're open to contributing half, like covering half of Jesse, and you'd like to see the board use their portion to cover the other half.
I mean, that seems fair to me, but I'm
Yeah, that's
just
a good idea.
spitballing here. I mean, but Nikki, I don't want to misconstrue your words, but it also sounds like just doing the 1350 wouldn't be super like significant in your world, but obviously you'd prefer to have more money than less. Is that kind of
So
We're very strapped
Absolutely.
for money, the PROSAB board.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Also, I would say too, I offered to dedicate my BOT salary to this, but the paperwork involved with that would be too troublesome for Miranda. I discussed that with her. I
we
would,
can't just reallocate salaries, just not.
yeah,
it's
I
a
know,
whole
and I could just pay for it myself as well, and just use my salary as consider that to be compensation. So, and I'd be tempted to. I would want I'm just bringing this up as an opportunity for PROSAB to invest in my education as a community volunteer and a BOT member, a community leader, and if it's doesn't seem to have any perception of return on investment for you guys, then I would encourage you to vote no on this request. And if it does, then I would be honored to receive your support in it. So I won't have my feelings hurt if it doesn't have that. So please don't vote your conscience. Don't mind rejecting me.
Kat, do you have any thoughts?
So just to be,
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, just to be clear, last year I asked you guys for the money for the conservation funds to go towards the purchase of one piece of equipment.
Yeah.
It wasn't enough to cover the whole piece of equipment, so I took a little bit from here and took a little bit from there just to purchase one piece of equipment with the conservation fund. So to do, just to be clear that if I come to ask you for money, it's for one big thing. And that's what I'm saying. I don't know that I would be in support at all of sending two people. But if we wanted to ask the BOT to contribute some and we contributed some, then I do think the knowledge is worth it. I do. It's just money's tight, kids.
Yeah.
We're a brand new baby park.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I do think so. It seems like sending one person should be sufficient, would be my take on this. And it does seem like the knowledge is useful, and also it's a fairly large chunk of change coming from a fairly strapped department. So if it would be possible to go 50-50, I don't really know what that $2,000 that the BOT has is exactly, but like if it's possible to like do a 50-50 split or something, it does seem like that would be both very fair, since it is like potential knowledge for the whole town, and maybe less financially challenging. So just putting that out there, because it does seem like it could be like useful in a lot of ways, and it's a decent chunk of change. So
I guess if I was going to weigh into in a perfect world, I would say wonderful, but this is not the situation that we find ourselves in, and so with my limited knowledge, I just feel like there are priorities that our town needs to allocate funding towards, that Nikki probably has much more expertise in designating when we have very limited funding. So I don't think it's an appropriate use of the funding, and I don't think the will of the majority of the community would be behind town funding going towards sending a trustee to a conference that maybe many people don't even support the concept of. So, but that's just my personal opinion.
I guess I would just say if we're going to be pursuing bike terrain in town, it would probably be good to be informed and to have that network, and the Walmart Ned Bentonville connection seems like
It's big,
something worth pursuing that could make everyone's life much easier down the road. I'm sympathetic. I don't hear Nikki saying she cannot spare any of the money. I would be in favor of splitting it 50-50. I think Jesse makes valuable contributions to the town and want to recognize like what he invests in the town and investing reciprocally. So I'd be in favor of asking the board to split with us and use their training budget for whatever half of 1350 is.
Yeah, piggyback on that, just that my biggest concern is that we do a project and we don't have the right knowledge and we do it poorly and we have drainage problems. We have all kinds of issues around the way it's being done and we're not building things to like the best it can be done. And so it seems relatively nominal since essentially Jesse is volunteering, to fund the whole build himself. If we send him, he's embedded in the public process as a trustee. So it seems aligned that he's actually wants to, and he's already offered thousands of dollars of time and equipment. So it seems fairly reasonable. I would love to see like someone from town staff go, that's going to be around a while. Like Nikki, you come to mind the most because I feel like that gives it the biggest amount of longevity. It sounds like you've got conflicts. That's my only other reason for sending 2 people, but I think we should at least send one. And if we're going to send one, it might as well be the person who's going to do the building. That's my thought. And obviously I'm excited about this stuff. So take that with a grain of salt.
Should we make a motion?
Yeah.
Oh, Eric.
Yeah, public comment.
Hey guys, I'm back. I agree with Sam. I would really like to see a member of staff go because I think it's a kind of knowledge that needs to be in town staff. I mean, we've seen it, not that Jesse's going anywhere, but trustees come and go, PROSAB members come and go, right? So building institutional knowledge, I think, would be really, really valuable. So to me, I personally think the BOT should send the BOT member and PROSAB could send a staff member.
I think
that would be the best kind of way of arranging it because it would reflect, the 2 boards' kind of priorities. And generally that makes sense to me. So as a BOT member, that's what I would be interested in. And I also just wanted to say, as the new youth advisory board liaison, which Jesse and I swapped, that's one part of this whole mountain biking thing that I think we're overlooking a little too much. Like we're not really engaging with anyone yet, or maybe people are and I just don't know about it. But I think it would be interesting to reach out to the youth mountain biking team, who are actually quite competitive, it turns out, and they win stuff.
Yeah.
Right. And maybe that is a way that we can get the community on board as well when we point to the youth and kind of say, look, we don't have that much to do around here, right? Like they're
Downhill fast.
right.
Yeah.
Literally, they go downhill fast.
Yeah.
So
These are bikes.
right. So maybe that is a better way to articulate all of these bike projects.
That's true.
As well as this training project, right? It's a way to get youth involved in our community in a healthy way that involves non-motorized transportation, which is also green and sustainable. And there's like a lot of reasons why this might be good from a completely different perspective. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, actually, Sam, are you already in touch with like the Gavin and the folks with like the Shred program that they're just starting with the youth mountain biking?
They've reached out, but I didn't really have like concrete things. I said I'd let them know as we move forward.
Yeah.
I met with the youth board about pump track and downhill, and they unanimously are like, but we didn't have concrete plans. That was when we went through to say conceptually, are you interested in this? And then bring it back. And so we didn't have anything concrete at that point to say, do you want this like specific thing?
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gavin came on our tour. Gavin was on our tour.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
He's aware.
Thank you for reminding me so long ago.
Cool.
Yeah, good question.
I won't know until after next Tuesday if I'm even available to go. My mom's having surgery and I won't know if I need to go see my mom, and that's what's happening with me right now. So I wouldn't be able to commit even a little bit if that was a desire. But again, and I agree with Eric and Sam that it is knowledge that is probably worth its weight in gold. And if we're going to be pursuing these adventures, then someone probably should have the knowledge, especially if I'm going to be working with different builders and contractors and things like that. So I'm not terribly opposed to it, but I am so hesitant with our little tiny baby parks department. I'm trying to be such a penny pincher right now because we have so many maintenance needs that have been neglected for so many years.
Mhm.
Let's see if we get the BOT to chip in. Is that something that's of interest? I like that idea that BOT sends a BOT member and
Yeah.
that we really consider sending the, Nikki, my preference, I think, is like for you to go because it seems like you've got the, your longest standing, you're running the show. You tell us who you think should go, I think, if we were to approach it that way.
Well,
better.
please do keep me plugged in on this stuff because I'm about to be the point person going forward with the Mountain Coalition for Youth meetings
cool.
too. So just as far as my position as youth services supervisor at the library, so can definitely.
cool.
Too, that would be cool, but I think
Yeah.
we're not budgeted for that at this point.
No, I mean just you just send me emails and I will relay that stuff to Mountain Coalition. So.
There was just one thing that I forgot to mention
Yeah.
that I meant to say, and because we were talking about the Waltons, right, and the Walton Foundation,
Yeah.
right, which of course the Waltons own a tremendous amount of property right outside of Nederland,
Right.
Yep.
right? So there's a serious potential
Yeah.
for a significant amount of investment
Yeah.
in
They'll
in our
exhibit
community in
interest.
this way,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
I don't think we should take that lightly.
We shouldn't.
I think it's a really cool opportunity. Getting the Waltons involved with town could only be good for us,
Yes.
right? We have been investing in small community projects, whether it's like short film projects or small youth projects. Like there is a history of this.
And the history is successful and it's not them taking over, which is really important. It's not like, oh, we're Walmarting it.
I could say too, I think Eric and I both share, we are very much aligned with wanting to keep parks as much of their money as possible. And I feel that Eric and I probably are in agreement that I think there's a general sense that we would have support on the BOT to loosen these funds from elsewhere to send me to this workshop. And Eric and I want to see this parks department thrive and grow. And so if there's a sense that we want to pinch pennies, then let's pinch pennies and let's try to find money elsewhere. And I think that this, as much as anything, was sort of a nod to, does PROSAB want to sponsor this effort? Because PROSAB is the Parks Department. This is very much a parks aligned ask on my part of town funds. So, maybe PROSAB, if I could propose a motion, would be to say that you support sending me, but you also want to keep all your money to yourselves, and for other park infrastructural investments, things that Nikki's gonna can't foresee, but just we want to make sure we're pulling as much money into PROSAB as possible, and or not PROSAB, but the parks. So like we were kind of earlier asking for a nod of 4 to say yes, we like the pump track idea. We want DDA to spend 15 G's on engineering. Maybe this is an opportunity for PROSAB to say, we recommend to the BOT that you guys find the money to send Jesse to this program.
I'm over to that.
And then what about the town staff?
And then town staff, maybe you could offer a match, or you could offer a $600 pitch in if the BOT can send Jesse plus a park staffer.
Yeah,
Nikki.
then Nikki has to let us know if she can go, and if not, who can go. But yeah, contingent on that. Yeah.
Motion.
Are we good to make a motion? Any other discussion?
I don't want to make the motion because I'm kind of shooting down my own ask, so I don't really want to make a motion to
Yeah, wait, what is the motion?
I was suggesting that one of
One
you
of
all
the
make a
two?
motion.
Yeah, I think I know I can because I agree.
Got the gist of it.
Yeah, I motion to recommend to the Board of Trustees that they send Jesse to the conference out of their own training budget, and if they do that, we will sponsor a member of town staff, one member to attend, provided there is such a member who is able to attend, which we will hopefully know by our next meeting.
Okay, so we have a motion. Do we have a second?
And so just to be clear, that means we're committing to like $1,300 out of this budget, but for a town staff person, if they can go.
Correct.
Well, I think it'll only be 1,000 if a town staffer goes. If I think the second one would be cheaper than the first one.
Yeah, I just don't like to assume people are comfortable sharing rooms, so I would
Oh,
rather.
that's right. You're right.
Dollars.
Yeah, if it's
You
me,
might want our own
if
room.
it's me, we should
Yeah,
have
yeah.
separate rooms.
Yeah,
No,
I-
you're right.
Brian
You're
and
right.
Mark, you
Yeah,
can
yeah.
deal with those guys.
but
You're
I
right.
guess like, yeah, so just to be clear, we are committing if someone can go, it would be about $1,300.
And only if the Board of Trustees sends Jesse. It's contingent.
Oh, are we, sorry, I'm good.
Okay. Well, I'll run it around everyone anyway for the official vote. So Alex made the motion. We had Sam second. Kat,
Yes.
Jesse,
Yes.
me. Yeah. Okay, wait, motion passes. You're good.
So
Great.
Do we do
Thank
anything
you.
else, Miranda, or this will all just
No,
run
we'll
its
bring it
course?
to the Board of Trustees and
Okay.
see what they say.
Perfect.
Yeah, he did.
Well done. Yeah, thank you. Moving on. We just got a couple more things. I was hoping maybe Nikki could give us an update on the GoCo updates. I guess we've got the 2023 timeline coming up here. The third purchasing deadline was set for March, so I think I was just wondering whether everything that got purchased needed to got purchased, and whether kind of what your plans are for the next few months.
Yeah, we just reached out to GoCo and asked for an extension to Miranda, correct me if I'm wrong, we asked for the extension to September for completion of the build.
Okay.
But I did purchase all of the rest of our big trees are coming in. They're purchased and sitting, waiting for us in Boulder. The benches and tables are all put together and waiting to go down there. Our pallets of concrete are inside of a storage shed waiting to go down there. Steve McCullum and McCullum's Excavating is online with Triton Environmental to do the soil amendment and hydroseeding of Garcio Field. That project will probably take place. I meant to reach out to Steve today, but I didn't. That project will probably take place in later March into April. Once that happens, Garcio Field itself will be shut down completely. I have to keep everything off of it for a month or so while we're waiting for the baby grass to grow up.
Okay.
And I feel like there's more, but I can't remember off the top of my head what it is. So it's not really a lot happening right now because we're in so deep with the rink at the moment, but we all know that as soon as the weather breaks, that's where we'll be until we're not there anymore.
Yeah.
I am looking forward to that.
That's almost done.
So the streets department also did pick out some very large boulders that are waiting to go down to Garcio's site. So we've got all those things ready. I've got a lot of in my opinion, much better support from the streets department now with my former parks lead being the new streets manager. It's actually working out really well because Mark really understands what parks needs and knows the ins and outs of parks and what's going on with me. So he has my back 100%. Our team right now between streets, parks, and utilities is really working well together. So utilities has also offered their manpower. Whenever I need it, we're all going to come together down at Garcio in Barker Meadows area for the bigger projects to get it tackled and done. Everyone knows I'm under the gun and I want it done hopefully before well before the new extension deadline because I am, well, Jesse, as you know, we've been working on this since 2018. So I'm ready to wash my hands of it for sure
You know
in many
what?
ways.
Things take a long time. Like it's a huge project.
Yeah, it was a huge project, $284,000 grant that really, you know, last year 3 people were working on.
Yeah.
So, it's a big deal and it's been a lot. So I'm looking forward to it being done successfully and I can't wait to see, you know, the grass growing and the trees planted and everybody having their little picnics down there. So that's the big goal. That's all I got.
Alex?
I was just clapping.
Oh.
Picnics and the trees. That's
Yeah, picnics and trees and shade and benches.
And one of the trees will be dedicated to Jesse. We'll have a tree that with a little plaque right under it. It says, Jesse, I'm sorry.
she's dead though.
No, I don't say
Kind of a
because of all of her hard work.
Oh, bless. So is Gershia going to be graded?
We don't have to grade it anymore. It's already been graded. Now the soil amending will happen, and that's a bunch of different it's not chemicals, it's different materials that the soil needs in order to grow. And so the amending will happen right on top of what's there already. Steve McCollum will come in and do all of the work for us. I'm not touching that piece of the project. McCollum's will do that. They have all the hydro seeding equipment and then it'll be seeded with a low-laying grass and wildflower mix. It's very, very beautiful mix.
Awesome.
So
Do you have any more word from Boulder on the bathrooms?
So we're still working.
Randy,
on
you want
that.
to speak to the idea?
Yeah, we're still working on the IGA. It's getting locked up under their legal team. And so no update really until we get that IGA settled.
Yeah, how's that looking?
It's really not. I mean, right now it's sitting with their legal team. And
Yeah.
so we don't really have any movement forward. I did follow up with Robbie. I actually sent 3 follow-ups with Robbie and haven't heard back. So I'm not sure what's going on at the moment.
Yeah. Well, keep poking.
I'll stay on it. Yeah. I mean, I have it flagged like every week to be like, hey, it's me again. So eventually I think he'll get sick of it and he'll respond to me someday.
Okay. Well, well done. You're plugging away. Okay.
I think
and-
too, we'll let PROSAB know. So I have it flagged to follow up with GoCo the day after they decide whether they'll give us the extension. So we'll let you know. Obviously, worst case scenarios, we have to just wrap it up by the end of March. And then there will still be work done, but we'll wrap up the grant.
Right. Yeah, that was it. I think the purchasing deadline was March, so you can keep on working as long as everything's.
I think it's just hard to file the end of grant paperwork when we don't
Yeah.
have a complete project.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just have to spend the money by the end of March for sure, no matter what. But it sure would be nice to be able to not, purchase our bushes and shrubs and things when I can't put them directly into the ground. So that's kind of I think that's the last big thing that I have left is just some bushes and shrubs and stuff. Most of the rest of the money is already spent.
Okay.
Well, Nikki, so I think I have a flag to follow up on Monday, March 13th. So I guess I don't know if you want to like hold off and let's see by that date. And then if there's no extension, then we do a rapid purchase the last 2 weeks of March, but maybe wait until
Yeah,
we hear
certainly.
back.
Yeah, in Creekside, I made the purchase of the trees, but they're holding
That's what I
them
was
for
wondering if
me.
they would do.
And yeah, and they have some bushes and shrubs, but it would be I'd get a lot more bang for my buck if I went someplace like the tree farm, and I don't think that they're gonna hold my stuff for me.
Mm.
So I mean, actually it's so late. I mean, I
Or
just
could you
don't
do
want
something
to
like
risk it. So.
if you needed to purchase those things and then take them up to the food bank gardens and store them in a
Oh, sure. That's a great idea. If I had to do something, use a greenhouse.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. Thanks, Jesse. I appreciate that. But hopefully I won't have to. Hopefully we'll get the extension, and that's the extension just gives me a little bit of breathing room as far as it all goes, and then we can bang it the rest of the actual work out this summer. So
yeah. Oh, good luck.
thanks.
Anything on that? And I'll be around. So if you need any questions and answers on any of the paperwork I have on that, I've got it all. So it's a big
Thanks, Jesse.
one.
I'll see you
I
around.
am there
I'm
to
sure. I'll
support
see
you,
around.
Nikki.
I appreciate that very much.
Okay. Anything else on this? All right. I know it's getting late, so I had one more thing on the agenda, but I'm fine if you're okay with pushing it. It was just something that we've done in the past as an annual thing to outline priorities and goals, and it's something that Miranda mentioned last time, is just to outline those priorities, which can be pretty helpful to tackle things, is to just outline which things need tackling in the near future, further out, and then as an envisioning exercise as you want to aspirational things. And we don't need to, I think, tackle that tonight, but it's up to you.
I mean, I agree. We definitely need that. Probably separate sessions probably multiple sessions maybe from this meeting, but maybe for the agenda next month, we could get to scheduling those separately from.
And I'd be happy just to forward on like some of the previous
That would
years.
be really helpful. Yeah. Like something to.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you, Josie.
But yeah, I think so many of our discussions tonight have made evident that is really necessary and would be really helpful.
There's a lot going on.
Totally.
And we've got to keep rink and tennis in the air right now too. So.
And SAB just did a bunch of work sessions. It really worked well. They did like 1 hour work sessions. They've done 3 now. So the first one was like kind of just talking broad scale goals. The second one's to narrow in action. And they're just going to keep going. So breaking it out from the meeting seemed to really work well for that.
Yeah, I like that idea a lot. It does seem like it'd be good to be able to just focus in shorter sessions.
How do those get scheduled, Miranda? Do we need to go through you? You just pick a date and time. We can doodle pull it, or they just pick the date and time in their meeting, and then we just publicly noticed it. Okay.
And they use the small conference room downstairs. But you could also do it virtually if that was of interest.
Okay. Thank you.
It's a good idea. Other business? The only thing I had was I was just going to check in with you, Miranda, about archiving the minutes and see whether you needed anything else for that.
No, I mean, obviously with Netter Days, it's kind of tying up a lot of our team's time. Peter was going to take PROSAB and May Sabley was taking SAB. So we may have to wait until Netter Days is at least either done or better organized, more fully organized, not even better, just more organized. So no, but we will.
Yeah, did you get that? Did you get the link to the Google Drive of the ones that I have? Okay. Sweet.
So that was helpful, and then we'll get the ones that we have added into that and move them over to Civic Web.
Okay. Perfect. To adjourn.
I'll move to adjourn.
Okay.
I'll second that. With a huge thank you to Jesse Ansari for all of your amazing work and your service for the town and for PROSAB.
Agreed.
Thank you so much.
We will miss you a lot, more than you know. I think we're lost this next meeting.
We'll
I
have
know.
to go
I'm like, what the heck?
Sorry.
Oh, well, yeah.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you guys.
Have a good night.
Good night.